There's a rule that poor people live with, either in general, poor neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, homeless people, the Spanish people, the Irish, the Asians, all the low income people in Lawrence, Lowell, Haverhill, Boston, uh, Rochester. It's all the same when it comes to this one rule. Let's say somebody breaks into your tent and takes your medicine. They either pay you back or they pay you back in blood. Now, what that means is they have to take a beating. You hit a baseball bat, they get a knife in the back, they get pushed down. Nothing to kill the guy. Sometimes people accidentally die from this, though, but it's the rules. That's why I had to stop a murder. Georgie stole somebody's drugs out of the tent and they caved his head in like an ashtray. Literally, he needed a metal rod in his back, and if I didn't get involved and almost get killed myself, he would have been dead today. But why was he taking this severe beating? He broke the rules. You don't hurt. Like, let's say somebody poisons you by giving you the wrong drugs or gives you a pill and you get hurt. Like you want Klonopin or you need Xanax and somebody dies because you sold them fake pills. Well, you either could pay them back or you can pay them back in blood. Now, if you killed my family member, as a poor person with no attorneys and with no way to actually hold a rich person accountable, they usually pick blood. And this is something I had to stay careful of and stay away from. You don't steal, you don't take other people's stuff, you don't take other people's inheritance, you don't take other people's social security, you don't poison them, you don't sell them fake drugs, you don't beat on them, you don't put your hands on them. You don't go into their room, you don't go into their tent, you don't go into their apartment, you don't go into their house unless you're invited. If you do, and you steal something or you get in, that's acceptable in the homeless and poor communities. You committed a B&E. But now the person you committed a B&E on has the right to beat the living fuck out of you and risk your life. And this is how it works in these poor communities. The cops don't help them. The lawyers don't help them. They get no help whatsoever. And they don't want to follow Jesus. They don't want to follow society's rules because society is continuously letting these African Americans, Spanish, whites, and Asians down. Every time they have a crime committed, like somebody breaks into their house and steals everything, the cops won't even give them an affidavit. The insurance doesn't want to pay out, and they know who the criminal is, but nobody even does an arrest. And then when you do know who it is and you report it, the police officer give your name to the criminals and your address so then they can come back and shoot you so they don't have to go to jail. Yes, the police officers give the informant's name to the guy who's getting informed on. It's common practice in Lowell when you inform on somebody to give that informant's information to the criminal that committed the crime. Yes, you need a special attorney to stop that from happening, what most poor people can't afford. So instead, when somebody breaks into your house and you know who they are, you and your buddies go around with baseball bats and break his knees or take your blood out on him. Now, smaller crimes get smaller stuff, like a fist fight or they steal back, depending on what it is. But if you poison somebody, or if you give them fake drugs and they get hurt, or if you give somebody medication when they're asleep or in their food and they get hurt, you get to fucking beat the living shit until they're crippled. If you cripple somebody, you gotta be made crippled. If you steal money from somebody and you can't pay it back, you get a beating. If you borrow money and you can't pay it back, you get a beating. That is called getting your money in blood. And once when you get your money in blood, you're even. He doesn't owe you money because you got your money in blood. Each drop of blood counts for a certain portion of the money he owes you. Or if they crippled you, a certain amount of the court date and what you would have got out of the person. Because if you're trying to sue another person who's homeless, they have nothing to give you. So the system is really fucked up. Now, if the police would do their jobs, and if the judges would do their jobs correctly, and if the system wouldn't be so fucked up to allow the rich to get away with crimes and the poor people to get hurt and used, then this wouldn't have to be a problem in the first place. Because almost all these homeless people, for the first few years that they're on the streets, they call the police and they try to do the right thing. I've seen this multiple times. There was this lady who was very disabled, about, I don't know, 42 years old. She was on Social Security. Somebody broke into her house. They beat her up. They pushed her over when she was in a wheelchair. They took her money. They took her pills. They literally were beating the living shit out of her so often. And everybody had a problem with this, but the gang members, nobody could stop them. When this person gave the name and made out a report, the person who was doing all the stealing came up to the homeless community showing a piece of paper saying, "Look at this, I have to go to court because the lady I robbed is bringing me to court. She's a snitch. She's a snitch. Look at it, there's her name." And I go, "Where'd you get that?" "The police officers gave me this and said I would have to go to court. Gave me her name and everything." Well, maybe you should stop doing that, because then the criminal can kill the witness. If somebody's pressing charges against another person, maybe you shouldn't be giving their name and address out. Another problem is that these people are living side by side. They're literally taking all the people on Social Security, and a lot of these low income people have to live right next to people that they're charging. Even with restraining orders, they don't care. One of you can either live outside or you both can live side by side. So there's a lot of conflicts of interest where the wealthy get away with stuff and taxpayer dollars is spent on them. Yes, there are billions of dollars spent on the wealthy that already have money who don't want to take care of their kids. If your kid has anxiety, get Social Security. They say hire a lawyer. The state won't fight you really much and you'll get it. It's a lot easier. I see this all the time in the homeless community. I knew a lot of wealthy rich people too, because the rich people like drugs and hookers too. And I got to be in giant mansions. There was a lot of homes. I mean, they would pick me up in the middle of the night on benches, asking me if I know this person or if I know that person or if I know this person. I would say, "No, I don't know. I don't sell drugs. I'm not a hooker." They say, "Well, do you know any? Do you know any hookers?" I'll be like, I don't, maybe. I don't have any numbers or anything. I'm not no pimp, dude." He's like, "Well, do you know this lady? And do you know this lady?" And they would talk for hours about whatever the crazy ass shit that this rich person wants. A lot of them have 3-story buildings and giant things on the roof and all this party and multiple cars. And you got a lot of these very wealthy people doing illegal stuff, having illegal drugs. Meanwhile, the people who work hard, working 50 hours a week, are getting their stuff stolen, used. They don't have any protections under the law. They can't file an attorney. So, that is why in the lower communities, it's you pay me back or I take it in blood. And I don't like that. I never liked that. It is a society rule that if you knew it, you wouldn't treat people badly, because there's two levels. There's the wealthy level, the people with attorneys that handle their shit the right way, the way that I keep on trying to handle shit, the legal, respectable, follow Jesus way. That's how I've always been, even while having to live in the woods, what I found a little dirty and weird, and I didn't think it was right that I was getting thrown out of shelters because I have disabilities, and that they weren't listening to me and making up, "Oh, we don't know what's going on with him," even after I just told them what's going on with me. The doctors aren't listening. After a couple times of getting treated like that, I had a drink too to keep the seizures away. I should have never had to live like that after spending 15 years getting drugged and having seizures and different neurological problems, especially that I'm missing 4 years of education. But see, I was born an orphan and I come from nothing. I have $0, and the only people in my family are people with money that have always used that money to try to cover up their mistakes. Yes, there was a lot of good parts in my life, but did I get a proper education? No. Did I get properly fed in my childhood? No. I got food poisoning several times in New Mexico. Did I get clothed? No. There were multiple times where I didn't have any clothing that got fit, and I was made fun of by other kids that were orphans because I had raggedy clothes. Yes, kids that were wards of the state with no parents were making fun of me because I looked like a bum. Why? Because I went not clothing shopping often enough to even clothe a boy. Just was not even close. My father didn't even keep track of really how quick I was growing. He didn't even realize that I was growing. He didn't see the changes in me. No. So I didn't get fed. Okay, how about my health? Did I have good health care? No. I was born healthy, but by the age of 7, I have a neurological disorder that my mother has now caused by an overdose. I have ADHD that I was born with. By the age of 10, I have PTSD and anxiety. By the age of 12, I've now been abused so many times. I'm afraid of hospitals. I'm afraid of my mother. I'm afraid of everything. I'm afraid of food. By the age of 15, I don't know what to make of this. I have PTSD. Nobody's working on my neurological disorder. Nobody's listening to me about what was going on with my body. By the age of 16, I'm trying to treat myself with just a little bit while talking to doctors, my mother, teachers, my mother, doctors. But the teachers are listening, but my mother keeps on covering her track. How does she do this? By lying, manipulating, calling me a liar, calling this all a fantasy, and on top of this, trafficking me and doctor shopping. So by trafficking me from state to town, the state to town, the state to town, we're talking Massachusetts, El Paso, Texas, New Mexico, Maine, Massachusetts, Maine. By doing that and switching around the doctors and giving the doctors false information and manipulating what I'm allowed to say and not say, and by feeding me brainwashed sayings and trying to convince a child that he has stuff wrong that he doesn't, it all worked to cover up her mistakes. And so I have to live disabled and hurt with nobody actually knowing what's going on except for part of it. They know about the PTSD, but they don't know all about why. Now, every time I try to speak about it, I get a worse beating, or the school punishes me, or something bad happens. Now, the school punished me only because that school had no classes for the entire year. All the other schools were strict. They actually worked on the classes, they had lessons plans. Like Worcester was a real school. The MECs, as far as the high school and middle school, those are real schools. I took lessons, I had books, I did classes, but there was a smaller school. This was right in the beginning of when I moved back to Massachusetts, which all they did is let me play with toys for an entire year. And this was way after third grade, and I'm playing with Yu-Gi-Oh cards, I'm playing with toys, and we don't even know how to read the cards. We have making up our own rules to Yu-Gi-Oh. And kids are bringing in Bionicles and we're using them all day long. I'm talking about literally for the entire year, every kid, not just me, every single kid in that class did not have a single book or lesson that entire year. We did have uh, wiffle ball, soap making, lunch, play outside, lunch. We had Yu-Gi-Oh or any toys we wanted to bring in all day. There was one time I tried to get the teacher to teach me how to read the cards with Yu-Gi-Oh. She agreed that all the kids got mad and little Riley, and she said nope and left. So there's a lot of these failures that I had to endure from Maine, Massachusetts, Texas. Actually, Texas did not fail me. I gotta say, Texas did not report anything I was saying, but they also didn't feed my mother's illness. And I also did get an education in Texas. Texas actually isn't a bad state. They are pretty free and they do know where to cut the line with a crazy mother. So I gotta say things weren't great for me there, but they weren't getting me hurt. Maine and New Mexico, I got incredibly hurt because there was no supervision and anybody could rape me or do whatever they wanted. Luckily, I never had any rape. I only had physical abuse, but I did have to listen to a 9-year-old girl in the shower who didn't want to get out of the shower be thrown to the restrained while naked by a giant African American, the same guy who was abusing me. And I really don't think I want to know why he did that in the shower. She wanted to restrain her naked, I think, because that was fucked up shit. And this guy was out of control. Anyways, so I've had to endure, and I've moved past those things. But I still need to be able to make a living to wipe my ass with toilet paper. I still need to be able to eat. And I'm too injured to keep on having seizures on the side of the road and catching COVID, and they want to keep me fucking vomiting at the register. I have a seizure, I hit my head off a table, and they tell me, no, 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 keep on making us money, keep on making us money. Yeah, no, 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 we don't need cash benefits, we don't need Social Security. Oh, you fell down, your car ran over you. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, you have PTSD, you have anxiety, you have all this. No, no, no. The guy who has anxiety that drives you home and that can drive a car, he needs Social Security. But you, somebody that can never drive, somebody that can't walk or move his legs properly, somebody that can't move his arms properly, somebody who can't talk properly all the time, somebody that has seizures and has multiple hits to the head, somebody that's had so many hits to the head, he has had more severe problems with the brain, as somebody who has problems with his kidneys and GI, he needs nothing. He should just stand up and walk miles, and he should run the whole town, actually. Yes, 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 that guy should run the whole town. Meanwhile, the guy with just anxiety that I actually know, who drives me home sometimes, who has a car, has a father with money, who pays and helps him with his apartment while he collects Social Security, that guy needs Social Security in Rochester. He lives in the same town as me. We have a Rochester boy living on his own. We got me, well, actually, Rochester kid, age 31, same exact age as me, on Social Security with anxiety and very mild illnesses. Meanwhile, me, somebody who can't drive because of his disabilities, somebody who can't walk in the cold because of his disabilities, somebody who falls and bleeds because of his disabilities, somebody that has seizure for his disabilities, somebody that's now urinating black and kidneys are failing, somebody with a GI problem. That guy should run the whole town. He should run all the gas stations. He should be working 50, 60 hours to pay his bills, and then the Department of Health and Human Services should fuck with him a little bit, sending him all over the earth for nothing and just keep him in circles. This is what should be happening to prevent me from getting Social Security.